Good evening, everybody. Great to see everybody here tonight. We're here with Nicki Shepherd, who is a heavy metal detox specialist. I hope you don't mind me calling you that, Nicki, but Nicki's got a whole load of information to share with us that I think we'll all find really useful. And also not just looking at heavy metal toxicity, but also the link between that and the biological effects of EMFs. So we've got lots of questions. I'm sure you're all here with questions to ask. So what we would ask is everybody stays on mute, and at the end we'll have a Q&A session. But also, if you have any questions that you think of as we're going through, drop them in the chat. We'll make sure they're covered at the end as well. So welcome, Nicki. We've had a chat before today, and hence why we're doing this presentation tonight. Very interesting story personally for you. So how did you become a heavy metal expert?
Well, I got interested in heavy metal detoxing because I experienced my own health issues. So 13 years ago, I completely lost my ability to work. I went from super fit, working full time. I was just about to become a single mum because I was going through divorce and working full time. And my health just went off a cliff, basically. But, you know, it's a steep learning curve. What I remember is that nobody, you know, anyone I spoke to didn't actually know about heavy metal detoxing. The way I started to do my research was joining forums on Yahoo. So if you remember, before Facebook, people were using forums, and I was reaching people all over the world. And if it wasn't for the internet, I really wouldn't have got to the bottom of it. So I wanted to share some of that today. And, you know, if any of the tips I can share with anyone, if they help people, you know, it's still quite a new concept for people when we talk about heavy metals, but EMF, not so much. So that's something I discovered years later, and that was also at the root of my problems. And the good thing is people are interested in that as a topic, and that's one of the things that have come out of, you know, the last 3 years. What's not being talked about so much is the connection between heavy metals and EMFs and how they interlink with each other.
So what were your symptoms when you fell ill?
So I can track this back to being under the age of 10. If anyone's around in the 70s or the early 80s, you would know that dentists were packing our mouths with silver amalgams, and no one questioned it. So by the age of 10, I had a mouthful. A few years later, I then started developing acne. And at the time, it was like the first thing you do is go down to the GP and say, you know, what do I do about this, you know, skin issue? And obviously now in hindsight, I believed that the amalgams triggered the skin issues. So when I went to the doctors, he prescribed me very powerful antibiotics. So I went away, got my prescription, and no one monitored me. I carried on taking these antibiotics. I think they were something cycling. And I remember the pharmacist saying to me, oh, these are really expensive tablets. And they were £75 a pack, which I remember thinking, oh, that's really weird. You know, I was taking one in the morning, one in the evening. And no one monitored me, no one checked up on me, and 10 years went by. Now, I've told practitioners this, and some of them don't believe me because I don't...
Were you on antibiotics for 10 years?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Every single day. So, you know, can you imagine the impact on the body? For the grace of God, I carried on and I still remained healthy. I went into a really demanding job and career in media, which was, I really enjoyed. I was super fit, going to the gym. one of the good things about being working for a big corporate is that you get the luxury of, you know, in-house nurse, you get subsidized dental and all of that. The downside is everyone in that environment is constantly checking on their body, you know, going to ask for, do we need vaccines to go to the Caribbean, which I did that as well. It was ridiculous looking back on it. But I was going to the dentist every 6 months. And on one visit, the guy said to me, you really need to take your wisdom teeth out. So I said, okay, you know, without question, I just went with it. They booked me into a private hospital in London, got the procedure done. And then after the procedure, when I came round from the anaesthetic, the surgeon came round to the bed and said, I need to show you something. And he pulled out a canister, and in the canister was one of my wisdom teeth. The bottom of the wisdom tooth was black, basically. It was a dark grey, almost black. And he said, I've never seen this before. And obviously then chatting about my history, he said to me, it's got to be the antibiotics. It can't be anything else. You know, I come from a really healthy family, no health issues, no heart history, any of that. So it had to be the tablets. The other problem was when he took the wisdom teeth out is they kind of crumbled at the base. So he left some of it behind. Again, not something I found out until years later. They don't care. They just whip them out. They're supposed to clean out the sockets, which they don't. So I went on a couple of years later. I was on the contraceptive pill as well, which I don't think did me any favours. And then I fell pregnant. Pregnancy was going okay. And then 5 months into the pregnancy, I was told that I needed to check on my cervix because my smear had showed up precancerous cells. So a doctor and a nurse persuaded me to go and have laser surgery on my cervix at 5 months pregnant. And right. I remember laying there thinking, this doesn't make sense to me. And I kept saying to them, is this safe? And they said, well, yeah, I mean, it's something that we do all the time. You know, there's a wall between what we're doing here with the laser and the baby. You know, it's perfectly fine. Didn't make sense. So I was starting to wake up anyway. 2 weeks later, my waters broke and I went into labour. So my baby was born 3 months early. We was taken down to Brighton because they couldn't deal with a baby that premature where I lived in Kent, in North Kent. So he was blue lighted down to Brighton, and there we stayed for the next 6 weeks. He went straight into ICU. And what struck me then, because I was able to stay down there with him, they gave me a bed and, you know, I could be with him practically all day, and they needed my milk as well. So I needed to get the milk going to, you know, give him a good start. And all I kept thinking was, you know, why are they not asking me why this could possibly happen? They wasn't investigating the issue. And those ICU, a place for a baby in ICU costs £500 a day, and that was 2005. Why are they not investigating? Why are they not asking me what happened leading up to the labour? You know, was I taking any medication? Because to me, if they, you know, tracked back on everybody leading up to these events, then surely they could prevent them in the future. But they didn't. But to be fair, they did give him the best care, and he came out of there okay. I mean, being born at £3, just over £3, he came out healthy eventually. Another thing that happened, don't ask me why, but a couple of years later, I'd done a lot of breastfeeding, and I thought I would treat myself, and I had breast implants. And if anybody knows me now, they probably wouldn't believe that. Think like, you know, that was my old life and I didn't know any different. But I also believed that in the private sector, no one would do anything to me or tell me something that wasn't safe. So little did I know that breast implants are basically full of heavy metals, full of toxins, And I've got a meme somewhere that shows something like 50 ingredients in there that really shouldn't be in the body at all, including formaldehyde. So obviously my decline was then set and I went back to work full time. So with everything in hand, I never felt right after the pregnancy. I felt my health, my energy was starting to decline. I wasn't sleeping very well. I would sleep for long periods, but then I'd wake up exhausted. And when I went back to work full time, I was literally running on a spare battery somewhere, and just pure determination, really. In the meantime, I was sort of investigating this Yahoo forum, people all over the world who were experiencing the same things, because I didn't know anyone at home that I could speak to. I certainly didn't have any friends that were suffering. And a lot of things were coming out of that. And one thing was that was being suggested, it was to look into the dental issues. So I was recommended a book, which I've still got now, and that's this one. And it was to investigate your dental health and see if that's got a connection with your immune system. And people have no idea how much goes on here in the mouth and the jaw, your dental health is connected to your immune system. So then that set me on a path to wanting my amalgams out. And not only did I have amalgams, but I had a root canal and I had a gold crown that was right next to a mercury amalgam, which later found out is like creating a spark in your mouth. And the two would be resonating with each other. The other thing I discovered I had was cavitations. I don't know if anyone's heard of cavitations, but they happen when teeth are extracted and the socket isn't cleaned out properly. What happens is the top heals over, but inside there's a pocket of infection, and that just festers and festers to the point I've heard that it's as bad as mustard gas. So these infections are stuck in your jawbone, and because no oxygen gets into that pocket, you know, it can't go away because it can't heal. So it's just going round and round your bloodstream. So that was a big wake-up call, and I had to, I went to have my amalgams out, had to do that over a 6-month period. What I didn't do correctly was the chelation. Chelation is just another word for detoxing, because the dentist, even the holistic dentist, will do their job, but they won't hold your hand through the detoxing because it's such a risky procedure, or it's very complicated, and you can really make yourself very, very ill. And this is what happened to me. So I went through all these procedures, got the root canal out, I got the fillings out, and then I had cavitation surgery 3 times. And the cavitation surgery, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, because you can't put yourself out, so you have to be awake when they do it, and they have to get to the jawbone at the back and cut open the sockets and then clean them out and then sew them back up again. And there was so much infection in there that you know, it took quite a while to deal with it. But before and after the procedure, I had to have vitamin C through an IV, and that sort of prepares your body and your immune system to go through it, because it's so traumatic on the body. And afterwards they put you on a drip again for vitamin C. So it kind of helps you get over the surgery, and that's quite effective. With the heavy metal detoxing, I learned a protocol, and if anybody's, sorry, my battery's about to go. Called the Andy Cutler protocol. And the booklet that you have to learn is like that bit. That's your guidebook. So I was reading that, but when you're not feeling very well, you know, it's hard to take in every little detail. And I started on this protocol, which meant taking these certain supplements 3 hours, every 3 hours for 3 days, and then you have 3 days off. And that means setting your alarm through the night. And so I'd wake up twice in the night and then try and go back to sleep. So it was exhausting. But when I did a good round and it worked, I felt absolutely amazing. It felt like my whole immune system just lifted, and my eyes were sparkling. My skin just looked amazing. Just looked 10 years younger all of a sudden. So I knew I was onto something, and it just became, after that, a little bit, I became a little bit obsessive about it, because it just, to me, of all the research and the people I was learning from, it just seemed to be the key to good health, was getting that stuff out. And obviously I was very toxic with mercury, and we're all toxic. It's just a matter of, you know, how much heavy metals we have. So because I didn't support myself properly with vitamins, I'd missed certain sort of sections of the guidebook which I should have been paying attention to, and that was high doses of vitamin C and high doses of magnesium, and there were some other things as well. And because I didn't do that properly, my immune system just crashed, and that was it. I was in work one day.
It's actually really dangerous, isn't it, if you don't do it properly?
Yeah. So those toxins can redistribute around your body. They'll come out of whatever organ they're sitting in, and they'll go somewhere else in your bloodstream, or go to your back, your thyroid, your gut. And many times I ended up back in bed, you know, worse off than before I started. Right. And with nobody around to actually bounce ideas off or get advice from. I was literally trying to learn myself. And there wasn't even YouTube videos then. It was just literally going into these forums. And obviously there's very sick people who are sharing knowledge and probably getting it wrong as well. So I was in work one day, and I was working in a really high-tech office. So I was in a small room with 7 Apple Macs. Everything was wireless. And this is my hindsight talking, yeah? We all had iPhones. I mean, I think me and my friends were getting iPhones about 2010. So I feel as though that's when it was ramping up. And one day I came out of a meeting. I mean, I was going to meetings, and I was suddenly, like, my brain would just kind of freeze. And all I'd think to myself is, I just need to get out of here. I need to get out and get some fresh air. You know, you just can't think straight. Everything just stops. And the exhaustion, it's just, you just can't work out how you're going to get through the day. And just going up the escalator at the, you know, I was going into London and traveling like an hour and a half in the morning, getting into the office at 8:30, you know, working all day, running a team. My boss is an entrepreneur and a workaholic. So, you know, there was no kind of slacking off. Yeah. And there was one day I remember I came out of this meeting, and I think I came this close to having a heart attack. And I know it was serious, because the thoughts that went through my mind were not natural. They were, I'm away from home, I'm miles away from home, what's going to happen to my son, you know, in like 5 seconds. And I leaned up against the wall, and it was like someone had like got a hold of my heart and screwed it like that. And I just kept trying to take breaths, but I couldn't, until eventually the pains like subsided, and then I sort of composed myself, and I didn't even go home. I just carried on with my day. But a couple of weeks later, and then it just hit me, and I just couldn't go in anymore. And then I never went back. So that was my work life. I got so bad, I couldn't look after my son. So I wasn't able to work. I had to rent my house out, moved in with my parents. And I did give the medical system another try. So I was thinking, well, should I just go and get a blood test? Because maybe I'm missing something, you know? And obviously my family didn't appreciate the fact that I was trying all this weird and wacky stuff that they'd never heard of. So I wanted to assure them that I was trying every avenue to get well. So I would go to hospital appointments, and my parents had to push me in a wheelchair because I couldn't do the long corridors. I was that exhausted and I just couldn't think straight. I went into one meeting with my phone because I couldn't remember anything anyone was telling me. So I recorded a meeting, and the consultant almost chucked me out of the room. And that's when he didn't like the fact that, I don't know, he didn't like the fact that I wanted to record the meeting, and I just couldn't deal with that. I thought, what have you got to hide, you know?
Yeah.
You're not allowed to ask questions. You're not allowed to think for yourself, you know? Whereas I was used to dealing with natural health practitioners who I could ask them questions all day long. You know, I'd been to see osteopaths, kinesiology. I had multiple colonic irrigation, and all of those things helped temporarily. And I was, when I encountered these people, they were nothing but kind, would give me their time, answer all my questions, sometimes give me some time for free. You know, that was my experience of the private sector. And when I went into the NHS, it was, this is psychosomatic, perhaps you need to think about antidepressants. You've been through a divorce, you've had a very stressful job, you know, obviously you're going to be feeling like this. So I had to keep saying over and over again, I'm not depressed, I'm ill, and I know the difference.
It's exactly what they're doing to the vaccine injured now.
Exactly. You know, and you can be pissed off because you're not very well. But I'd been in a demanding job for years. You know, I know what it's like to be in a stressful job. This was different. And if anyone's had autoimmune issues, you know, there's two different types of tiredness. There's the normal tiredness that we all get. If you've been shopping all day and you have a cup of tea and you go to bed and everything's fine. When your thyroid's not working properly, your adrenals are messed up, and you go into that kind of void of, you just can't, your body can't take very much at all, you know, so you have to create gaps in between doing things. So if you're going to go somewhere and have an appointment, you need to have a day off the next day. And the tiredness is like a pulling down of your muscles, especially your legs. And that's when you get to a point you just can't walk very far. The back starts hurting, you know, you go into brain fog, and you know, but anyway, so I realized I was on my own, because in NHS, in their world, if they can't see anything on the blood test, there's nothing wrong with you. Blood tests are one-dimensional and the x-rays are one-dimensional. So in the end, I realized I had to deal with it myself. So I went online and I just learned and studied and stuck my head in books and slowly pieced it all together. I met a couple of people online that gave me some coaching, and the first thing I did was get myself a distiller. So I got distilled water and I went on a distilled water fast. Because distilled water's got magnetic properties, so it's able to take some toxins out with it, especially if you're doing it for the first time. So I went on this fast, and after 2 days, I went into some flu-like state where I just couldn't move, and I was warned that it might happen. So I gritted my teeth, went through that. I was quite ill for a couple of days, and then when I come out the other side, I actually felt like a cloud had lifted, and I felt a spark of energy. It was only tiny, but you know, that got me on the right track. So mentally I knew I was, you know, I was onto something with the water. So if the water can do that, then what can I do with the food? Or what can I do? Can I push the fasting a bit more? Because I'd never fasted before, you know. So that set me on a track, and I was still experimenting with the heavy metal detoxing, but I was using powders. So you get zeolite powder, which you can just mix in water, and you take that before bed, and that helps, that it cleans through the digestive system, and it can give you a bit more energy. Sometimes it didn't work, sometimes it did, but it was a safe way to take some of the toxins out. I stripped my diet back. I went vegetarian. I'm very strict on what I ate. I went vegan for a while, and then I went back to vegetarian, and just slowly but surely sort of got stronger and stronger. And then I moved home. I moved back to my house, which was an amazing feeling. And obviously my family was so relieved, because I think my mum and dad thought they was going to be stuck with me. So yeah, they were over the moon. And then when I moved home, it was the time when, you know, people getting more and more gadgets in their home, and my partner moved in with me, and he brought lots of technology with him. And that's when I discovered the other aspect to autoimmune, or also so-called autoimmune, is sensitivity to EMF. And I realized one day, because we were sitting at the dining table both with our laptops and chatting away, and one minute I was fine, and the next minute I just felt completely dizzy, and I had this searing pain in the side of my head, which was right where his laptop was. And I just knew what it was. So then got back to studying, and got myself a grounding mat. Yeah, just experimented with the grounding mat, and I had an afternoon sleep with my grounding mat, and I felt so much better. I thought, okay, right, we know what's going on here, and just started hardwiring the house, reducing all the gadgets in the home. Everything was wireless, so we changed back to wide mouse.
How did your partner respond to this when you started talking about it?
Well, he works in IT, so not very well.
Yeah.
No, to be fair, it's been really understanding. And because of his skills, you know, we was able to change things really quickly. So we did it gradually, and I'd say this to anybody: you've got to do these things step by step. You know, don't try and do everything in one go. There are things that you can do for free, and there are things you can do at low cost. But just, you know, both with the heavy metal issue, the fact that we're all toxic, and the EMFs, and we was talking about this earlier. If my message was anything, it was just to say, don't be fearful of these things. You know, there's a lot of talk about 5G and masks going up everywhere, and I know there's campaigning going on, but we've just really need to focus on ourselves, our own health, and be the strongest and healthiest we can possibly be. You know, don't keep focusing on the outside environment. Some of it we can't do a lot about, but we can do something about our own situation, and that starts in the home. And we need to focus on the children, because we know the way the society is set up now, they are trying to entice children into a whole array of gadgets. You know, it starts with gaming, and then it's phones, obviously, and tablets. And before you know it, they are surrounded by technology. And if, you know, we need to be sharing knowledge and making these changes so we can educate children. It's not an easy task, because, you know, I've got an 18-year-old, and he's not quite on board with me because he doesn't want to let go of his technology. So, you know, it's a difficult one. But, you know, I've just wanted to share some tips today about, you know, what you can do in the home, you know, hardwire your house and things like that. So I've got some slides. If I share my screen. And now you're in front of my screen.
Perfect.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's move you over. Okay. There you go. Okay, so electrosensitivity and heavy metals. You know, both these toxins are invisible. They're hiding in plain sight. And actually, they have surprisingly similar traits. So if you look at symptoms of heavy metal toxicity, all of these I was suffering with. Now, everybody's different. Wherever you've got a weakness in your body, those heavy metals will antagonize that weakness. So for some people, it might be the thyroid. Other people, it might be digestive issues like IBS. Cognitive dysfunction is quite a typical one when it comes to mercury toxicity and aluminium. I think there's a reason why we have epidemic levels of, you know, dementia and Parkinson's and neurological issues. And those are the typical heavy metals, mercury being the worst neurotoxin known to man. And obviously that was my issue. I just feel so fortunate that I was able to learn about this stuff and, you know, start clearing out my system, because I dread to think where I would be if I hadn't done that. And I just encourage everybody just to start learning about this stuff for yourself, because I can only give basic tips. But because everybody's different, you don't know what your triggers are. You know, if you can start, maybe do a hair test, maybe do, there's dried blood analysis that you can do if you really want to get right into this and see where your body's at, you know, see where the toxicity is, and then think about to start detoxing. So see what happens when I change this slightly. They're pretty much all the same symptoms.
Yeah.
Just to touch on what are EMFs, there's various types of EMFs, and people are affected in different ways. You know, some people are more triggered by Bluetooth than they are compared to Wi-Fi, and I know I am. And some people have lived near pylons and can't cope with, you know, electrical low frequencies versus high frequency. But I want to be focused on solutions. You know, I want people to just take away a few tips. So this is all about, you know, helping us, helping our family, and making some changes at home. So please do your research. There's enough information online. There are some conflicting information out there, but I'm putting a pack together at the moment of books. There's Facebook groups, there's video documentaries that you can watch, and when I've done that, perhaps I'll pass it to you, Lisa, and then
that'd be great.
Mail it
we
out.
can share that, absolutely.
One way you can test your electrosensitivity is to switch off your circuit board at night, and that might seem like a weird thing to do for some people, but in the circles of electrosensitive people, that is just something they do every night. If you switch off your circuit board and you feel the difference the next morning, you sleep better, you feel more clear-headed, then yes, you are affected. And I believe that we are all electrosensitive. We're just being affected in different ways. So, you know, especially people are still on their laptops all day. We're all working from home. And if you get a headache at the end of the day, are you attributing that to being on a laptop and being around Wi-Fi, or are you thinking, like I used to do, I'm just tired, I've been in the office and people have been asking me for stuff, and you know, I didn't sleep very well last night. So that's one way. That's a quick check. We don't need Wi-Fi at home. You can hardwire your PC. It's really easy to do. Ethernet cables are your friend. You need to look into that. No Bluetooth, no hubs. Don't have stuff on standby. You really need to turn stuff off at the mains. I don't have any Bluetooth at home. I don't have any smart gadgets. I don't have Wi-Fi. We literally just have everything on a cable. Definitely no smart meters. I think pretty much everyone on this call will know that smart meters are a no-go. Check your mobile settings. And also,
here's Nicki though, and just tell me this, sorry to put in, but smart meters, yes, absolutely. But there's smart everything, isn't there, these days? To me now, if there's a smart in front of it, it's you know, don't trust it. Smart TVs, smartphones. My husband bought a new air fryer. It's a smart air fryer. As soon as I saw the box, I'm like, oh my God, what have you bought? You know, all of these things are just frightening, aren't they? I mean,
It's not got Wi-Fi in it, is it?
well, it must have, because yes, it absolutely has, because you can get recipes off it and you can switch it on and switch it off from your phone and this, that, and the other. Honestly, it's everywhere. It's crazy.
Yeah, I know people walking around with their Fitbits and stuff, you know.
Crazy.
You know, headphones, you don't, oh, that's on the next slide, but you know, you don't need Bluetooth headphones. You know, there's nothing wrong with a cable. And even
but you know what, actually on that subject, we were going away a couple of months ago and I said, right, I'm not having those things you put in your ears on the plane and whatever, you know, so I went into Curry's to get a pair of the old fashioned plug them in. I found one pair literally in the whole place. The guy went through all the options with me and he said, no, we don't have any of them anymore. They're all Bluetooth enabled, etc. And I said, but I don't want those. And then he went, I said, what about those over there? He said, oh my God, yeah, that's the only one. And there was one pair. I think they were meant for me because I was the only person that wanted anything like that. And there was one pair left in the whole of Curry's. But that's the scary thing, isn't it? It's everywhere. It's in every device. Trying to escape it's very difficult.
Yeah. And something I learned the other day is that the nervous system doesn't complete itself. It doesn't complete developing until the age of 21. So these kids are walking around with headphones or, you know, sitting gaming next to the router with headphones on at the age of 10. They've still got another 11 years to go before the nervous system is fully developed. So that's a scary thought. Check your mobile settings, because I know on iPhones now you can turn off the Bluetooth, but then the next morning it comes back on again. I don't have an iPhone. I've got a smartphone, but it's an Android because I like to be able to control it. Router settings. Router settings have a default, I think it's 100 feet. So it's a massive range. So if we can all reduce our range as to our, you know, the perimeter of our house, and if everybody did that, what a better world it would be. I wouldn't have 15 Wi-Fi signals popping up on my phone every time I switched on. And the car settings as well. And most car settings now have got a Bluetooth enabled. Do we need it? I don't. I switched mine off as soon as I bought my car. So, you know, I don't want to be suffering headaches while I'm driving. There's an app called ElectroSmart, which is pretty good. It's a bit limited, but if you can download that and switch it on, it will tell you what's in the vicinity, Wi-Fi signals, Bluetooth signals, and on a score of 0 to 100, it will tell you how high your exposure is. I think they stopped developing it a year ago, but it just gives you a guide, and it's the only real decent app out there, so it's worth checking out. There's other things you can do at home, checking electrical wiring faults, and they can create a magnetic field up to 8 feet. So if you've got an electrician around doing jobs anyway, just get them to check a few things, just check around, see if there's any faults anywhere. I'm just conscious of time, so I'm going to whiz through.
It's great, Nikki, just carry on. I think this is really important. Yeah.
I'm very sensitive to electric tools and motors, so you know, I can't use a carter for very long. That really affects me. So I have to, you know, if you don't think about these things until you actually make the connection between something electrical with a motor going through your body. We're electrical beings, so therefore that's going to have an impact on my well-being and my parasympathetic state. So just need to start opening your perceptions when it comes to these things. Clock radios in the bedroom. Don't have a wired clock radio. That's a no-no. It's giving off a signal. You can get a perfectly good clock radio with a battery in it, which I've had for years. It's much better. Stock up on incandescent bulbs, because some of the newer bulbs contain mercury. LED bulbs are bad for our eyes. There's so much you can say about light bulbs, and there's a reason why they're trying to phase out incandescent bulbs. It's because they're pretty safe. I actually love the vintage bulb look anyway, and I like the trend because it means the shops are full of them at the moment, unless there's any hidden toxins in there that I don't know about. Check your earth. That's something for your electrician. Not everybody's got a good earth on their house. I don't think I've got one here. And if you can go to the expense of rewiring the house, that's something on my list for the future, because if you can use shielded cable and do it in a safer way, you won't get those magnetic fields coming off your lighting circuits and things like that. I'm going to whiz through these. Right, mobile phones, you can use an Ethernet adapter. You don't have to be using your Wi-Fi signal. You don't need to use your mobile data. You can use an Ethernet adapter and your phone can be on airplane. So that's definitely something to look into, but I'll put that in the notes. Wired headphones we've covered. TP-Links is to do with having hard wiring at home. That means you can plug into your hard wiring in different rooms. I know that doesn't make sense. And some electrosensitive people don't get on well with TP-Links, but I do. They've been a lifesaver for me. I can work all day on a very old laptop, hardwired via a TP-Link. Just something you might want to research. No dimmer switches, they give off fields as well. Deck phones. People think they're pretty innocent. They're not. It's like putting your head next to a mini pylon. You need to get rid of them. There's nothing wrong with having a wired phone plugged into the wall. Just have a longer wire. You can use shielded phone wallets if you're traveling, and shielded clothing I've found really helpful for me. But hats, I've got a really nice hoodie. It's been a lifesaver for me. And again, some people don't get on with it. So that's why I say do your research and just see how you feel, see how your body responds. And the bedroom is the most important place, because if you can sleep well at night with low exposure, then you can tolerate a lot more during the day. So these are the rules, my rules. No phones or chargers in the room. If you've got a phone in the room, just turn it off completely. I've got a theory that signals are being pumped through our phones in the middle of the night. And this is not to scaremonger, but when we're putting our phones on airplane, there's still signals coming through. And there's been times when I've just done that, and I've woken up with a start a couple of times in the night. It tends to be around 3 o'clock. So I don't trust it anymore. I turn it off completely. Switch. A no clock radio, I said before. Switch off at the plug, you know, the lamp, whatever, switch off at the mains. Move your bed 15 centimeters from the wall. That's a guideline because there's wiring in the wall and you don't want that resonating with your bed. A big change happened with me, and that's when I changed my mattress from a metal sprung mattress to a natural mattress. There's research, if you want to look it up, on how the traditional mattress resonates with TV and radio transmissions. So it's basically, it's acting as an aerial of such. It's resonating with frequencies and you're laying on it through the night. That was a big game changer for me. So something to look into. I've got a latex mattress now, which is far, far better. Shielding walls is something you can do. You can shield a whole room if you like, but you need to get advice on that. And if you want to go to the expense of a bed canopy, you're then going to create a Faraday cage around the bed and keep most of the frequencies out. And that's something I've got as well. And some natural things you want to do every day. You want to stand on the grass for at least 10 minutes, preferably morning and night. a lot more people are aware of grounding now, so that's good. I hear people talking about it. That's something I have to do before I go to bed every night. Deep breathing, lots of deep breathing techniques. I'm still learning on that. Some people say shallow breathing, fast. Some people say deep breathing, but definitely something to learn. It's another skill. It's another piece in the armor. Distilled water, as I mentioned before, some people like their Berkeys, but I've been doing distilled water for the last 7 years. Oops. And it works for me, and I just take electrolytes every now and then. Natural clothing, because you don't want EMFs resonating with your clothes. Cotton, linen, and wool, I found out the other day, has a positive charge. So some people can't tolerate you know, wool carpets, which surprised me, because I thought that was that would be safe. I've got, you know, lots of wool jumpers. Magnesium really helped me a lot, so I take that every day. That and something that you can't overdose. I mean, the more you take, the better, really, as long as it's good quality. I don't advise anyone on diet, because we're all different. As I say, I went vegan, which I think is excellent for detoxing. I'm vegetarian for 7 years, and I've only recently gone back to meat. And that's just because intuitively I felt that I needed bone broth. And I do really well on bone broth. I don't notice any difference or improvements on eating meat, but I do with the broth. So that's something I always do. Infrared sauna therapy, and that's red light therapy. That was a big game changer for me as well. And I'm lucky my partner is very handy. He can make things. He's very good with electrics and wood. And so he's made me my own sauna. And few friends were asking about that, because again, awareness is growing of these traditional therapies that are just simple and work really well and are completely safe. You know, I tried a far infrared sauna once, and never again. I came out of that worse off and more ill than when I started. And the most important one is get rid of heavy metals. And that's when I actually started doing that with effective products, and the one I take now is Clean Slate. Everything changed. I mean, this was 3 years ago. I got to a point where I was functioning. I was a whole lot better than I was. But I still had to sleep in the afternoon every day. I still had that debilitating chronic fatigue and really bad brain fog and aches and pains in my body. So I was just about sort of functioning. I was okay. And I could walk long distances. But, you know, zeolite or zeolite derived products have moved on massively in the last few years. And my holistic dentist friend, who's now retired, phoned me one day and she said, "You've got to try this product. I feel absolutely amazing. It's the best thing ever." So I started on that, and within a week I didn't have to sleep in the afternoon. I was waking up motivated and you know, clear-headed, and just feeling so much better, so much more positive, and you know, ready for the day. And I've been doing that pretty much ever since. You're all right for time, Lisa? Because I'm just got...
Yeah, good. Go ahead.
One for the ladies, and actually it's one for the men as well, because you wouldn't believe how many heavy metals are in cosmetics, body lotions, shampoos, deodorants. I think pretty much everybody knows about that. But if you can get rid of all of those off-the-shelf products, it's really not difficult to replace them. So I make a really simple cream that's organic coconut oil, colloidal silver, some essential oils, and aloe vera. And I just whisk it up, warm it up so it melts, whisk it up, and then I decant it in jars and a pump bottle. And I use that for my face, my body, massages, you know, everything. Put it on your toenails, and it's just, you don't need anything else, you know, and it's completely and utterly natural. And then I just wanted to show people sort of extreme cases of heavy metal toxicity that they might not be aware of. So these are some of the things I've become aware of in the last sort of 3 years. Gadolinium is a very toxic substance, and yet people are getting injected with it every day. There's a Facebook group of people, I'll show you on the next slide, but it's people that have been damaged by gadolinium. I know a lady who, she had 1 shot of gadolinium, and she was bedridden for many, many months just from that 1 treatment. It is actually criminal what they're doing.
Oh, God.
Mercury amalgams, that's the most commonly known one. It's not always, I don't want people to get obsessive about taking amalgams out, because sometimes it's safer to keep them in. I know a little bit about dentistry, so I think the most important thing is to get the excess metals out of the blood, and then sometimes leave them the fillings left alone. Dental implants, a contentious issue, because if people want them, I would say don't. If you've already got them, then just keep detoxing and keeping on top of your immune system, because any foreign body in your body shouldn't be there. I was lucky, I got my breast implants taken out, and I noticed the health effects almost immediately. And if I show you pictures of how I looked, I didn't have time to put them in the presentation, but shocking. Aerotoxicity is a very little known one, and that's there's a lady I was speaking to the other day. She's an ex-air hostess, and she was telling me that many, many people that worked in the industry for years have become very sick. There's a high rate of brain tumours in ex-airline staff, and that includes pilots. And what happens is, she said that you get these toxins are sprayed in the cabins, whether we know it or not. And the way that the planes are designed, the fumes from the engine are coming up through filters and into the cabin. So we're all breathing in these toxins. And there's something else called fume events, when the burning oil goes into the cabin and you can see the smokiness. But majority of the time you can't see these toxins, but they are there. So people coming off of a flight and thinking they've got really bad jet lag or just don't feel right, it could be because of that. Breast implants I've talked about, and obviously toxins at work. So welders, plumbers, electricians, hairdressers, there's so many occupations that have hazards at work that people don't think about. And then the big one is vaccines. I think there's enough evidence out there to show us that vaccines contain heavy metals that really shouldn't be there. So I've just picked out a small selection of Facebook groups. This one, the breast implant one, was a lifesaver for me. There's 13,000 women in there. It took me 8 years to realize that was part of my problem. And, you know, bearing in mind how much research I'd done, I just couldn't believe that it hadn't crossed my mind before. So how many people are walking around sick with autoimmune issues and don't realize it's their implants? You know, so that's just the tip of the iceberg. You've got the contrast dye injured, the vaccine side effects. There's many, many groups, as we know, people that are suffering. And there's another one, aerotoxicity syndrome. All of these people are toxic and they don't know why, and a lot of them don't know what to do. So it's a bit of a mess. Just some simple everyday tips to reduce your exposure. Again, distilled water is my friend. Reducing the amount of toxins you take in through your products. I mean, you know, you've just got to check the labels. It's common sense, really, and just buy organic. Essential oils instead of toxic candles and plugins and Essential oils all over the house, you know, but just make sure they're pure. Wash your vegetables. Don't use Teflon. I think most people know that one. Tinned fish, sushi, you know, just keep that all to a minimum. Supplements and meds. Well, I've seen experiments where actual health supplements contain iron oxide or graphene in the capsule. So, you know, you've got to be aware of what's actually in the capsule, but if you have got a plastic capsule, you don't know what's in it. If you dilute that in warm water and get a magnet, you might find that there's some substances in there that shouldn't be there. So we can't even trust the natural health sector anymore. You've just got to be really diligent. Baby products. This is a bit of a sad one, really, but they found heavy metals in baby food. They found heavy metals in baby talcum powder. But, you know, baby foods we should be making from scratch anyway. And heavy metal detoxing, I think everybody should be thinking about that, from newborns all the way up to the elderly. And just to end on some good news, these are 4 case studies of people that I've been helping recently, and just want to get some awareness out there, really, that when people are presenting with adverse side effects from the vaccine, there is hope, you know, and as we were saying earlier, Lisa, you know, not one size fits all, but I find it really encouraging that people with quite extreme symptoms are getting well. And all they're doing is just detoxing out heavy metals. So this lady took 2 vaccines, and after the second vaccine, she was developing migraines, and they were so severe, she was having to take to her bedroom, close the curtains, and couldn't even look after her children. She just had to sit in the darkness and get family to help her. And she was just on the verge of going into, you know, scans, consultant appointments and all of that. When we had a chat, and she went on the detox. Within a couple of days, the headaches subsided. And happy to say she's back to work and I'm feeling great. It's all stopped. And, you know, what the impact that can have on a young family is just doesn't bear thinking about. So that's one success story. This is Wayne. He was a real fitness fanatic and perfectly healthy, apart from he'd always had the odd migraine. So he was taking medication for that. He took 2 vaccines, and after the second one, he said he just knew something was different, and started developing back pain from a very, very old injury. He said that his energy just dropped and his vitality went. He couldn't train in the gym like he did before, and didn't quite know what was going on, really. We got chatting because he used to work with my fiance. Started doing heavy metal detoxing, and within a couple of weeks the pain subsided and he's feeling a whole lot better. This lady, she took 3 vaccines because she's got a cleaning business, and in the height of all the madness, her clients were saying to her, you can't come into our building unless you've taken the vaccine, because, you know, the rules are the rules. So she didn't want to take them, but she took them to keep her business going, which is pretty sad, really. But, you know, I did really feel for her. She already had some issues. And what happened was, when she took the vaccine, all of those kind of weaknesses amplified tenfold. So she got to the point where she couldn't sleep very well. She was hardly sleeping. She was constantly anxious. She couldn't think straight. She just had very little energy, and bearing in mind she's got a physical job all day and running a team, I mean, that was a pretty scary situation to be in. And now she's doing really, really well, to the point she knew intuitively to come off her medications. That's her own decision. It's just her own journey. But it seems to be the case when people clean up their body, they know what their body needs. And yeah, it's really good to see her back on form. This is lovely. This is Lizzie, and hopefully we've got Camilla on the call. I did invite her on here. And Camilla was on a flight a few months ago, trying to get into her partner's country, and they stopped her from getting on the flight because they said you need to be vaccinated. And in that moment, you know, the pressure was on. So she took the vaccine, and then she'll confirm what happened next, but I know she had to take 2. And from that night onwards, Lizzie, her baby, who was breastfeeding, changed her behaviour. She just stopped being content, she stopped smiling, and then she wasn't sleeping through the night. And it got to the point where she was waking up 10 times a night. So she got in touch with me and she went on the detox. I think she started 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. And things are looking really good for Lizzie now. So do you want to invite her on, Lisa?
Yeah, I think, is it Camilla? I think Camilla's here.
Yeah, she's on there somewhere.
Don't know if you want to unmute yourself, Camilla, and just say a few words.
She's on, but she says she can't unmute herself.
Oh. I can't unmute her, unfortunately.
She's put something in the chat.
Yeah, I can't. I've not muted you, and I can't unmute you.
I'm here.
Unfortunately.
Oh, that's strange.
Yeah, I can only ask you to unmute. I can't unmute you. Anything techie? I'm afraid it's not me. Yeah, unfortunately, I've no idea.
Or she could just use the chat. She could use the chat. She could use the chat.
It says host is not allowing participants to unmute themselves.
I can unmute, but also
I can unmute.
She could use the chat. She could use the chat if it really doesn't work.
Yeah, I've not muted Camilla, so I can't unmute her. Does your video work, Camilla? Oh, no, I don't think it's going to work. I've no idea.
It's possibly settings.
It could be to do with how they joined it.
Yeah, I don't. No problem, Camilla, but great that you're here. If there's anything that you think you need to say, why don't you just stick it in the chat?
Also lovely to see the baby.
Yeah,
absolutely. Should we open up to Q&A? I think, Nicki, you've given us so much to think about, so much information there. Very glad that we're recording, because I personally will be sitting the children down and making sure they're listening to this and making some notes myself.
Good luck with the children.
Well, they're 17 and 19. My daughter, 19-year-old's very, very into health, etc. So a lot of this she's already thinking about. I think it'll be great. It'll be a different story with the 17-year-old that loves his Xbox, etc. So, yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Well, one down, one to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, yellow hands up if you've got... do you want to stop sharing your screen, Nicki? And yellow hands up if you've got a question. Oh, Lindy Lulu's here first with a hand up. Do you want to unmute yourself, Lindy?
Yeah, that does help, doesn't it? Right, basically everything you've said I can relate to, because at 17 years old, I was poisoned by a dentist who got struck off for a cocaine problem. He did 34 mercury procedures in 2 weeks. So he
Incredible.
put 8 fillings in a couple of days, took them all out because he did them wrong deliberately, put them back, did the other side, which resulted in bleeding kidneys, dystonia, central nervous system dysfunction, pituitary dysfunction. It's literally been a cascade of dysfunctional things happening. So what you said about the EMF, I got really so bad in the last 2 years. I went into a cytokine storm, developed massive mast cell issues where I didn't even think I could stay on the planet. So I've been battling with the NHS to actually bring this to light, which finally I've got on my medical records that the rationale for electrohypersensitivity is there and the mercury toxicity does exist. Because I've literally proven beyond doubt. I had a tumour that grew just after the fillings, which I found out was a tumour from DNA mercury damage. I also had a very strange health problem, which can only be pituitary dysfunction. So there were so many things that you could evidence. So I've been so, persistent with my doctors to me, I've been diagnosed as long COVID, but I can actually evidence my symptoms were mercury toxicity that have now escalated, and certain environmental toxins are driving that. So I'm happy to share that with both of you at some time if you'd like to know more about that. But a couple of things I was interested in, obviously health-wise, because now I've got to take a mast cell stabilizer. So because my mast cells are going crazy, which is causing the micro blood clotting that we're seeing in a lot of people. So basically, I'm really interested in the clean slate and where did you get that from? And also the magnesium. Nicki, how high did you go with your magnesium, just out of curiosity?
Well, I tend to take 2 in the morning to lunchtime to evening.
And what dose would that be, just out of curiosity?
I think they're 400 each.
So
when you're taking 400 micrograms, is it milligrams, and I find with that dosage, if I forget or miss a day, it doesn't matter, because it takes me a couple of days for it to get in my system. So you don't have to be too strict with it. I could go a day with just a couple and it keeps the momentum keeps going, but I do notice a difference if I don't take them.
So you're doing 800 3 times a day, is that right?
600. No, hang on. Six capsules, and they're 400 each.
Right. Okay. That's just because I don't think I'm high enough on the magnesium at the moment. And the clean slate, where did you get that from? Where does that come from?
It's a company in America, so that's kind of what I've been doing. I don't sell it, but I am an affiliate for Clean Slate, and yeah, basically the way it works is I just coach people for free if they want to buy it, and they want to buy it through me, or you can go direct.
How could we buy it through you, Nicki? Because I think that would be really, I'm struggling to get these metals out because I think I've also got a methylation problem as well. We think there's a gene deficiency or something, so it's doubly worse for me trying to get rid of it. So that would be quite useful to try.
It's a minefield.
Yeah.
Perhaps
we could share Nicki's link with the recording.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah?
Okay, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, just to say, I mean, heavy metal detoxing was a minefield, and can be a minefield if you don't do it correctly. And as I was saying earlier, it can be really, really dangerous. But now, thank goodness, there are products where you can do it safely, gently, and with very minimal side effects. And I didn't have any side effects. The people that I've helped that do have side effects, I mean, it's as simple as a headache, or, I feel a bit itchy, or, I'm urinating a bit more. And that's it, really. I mean, it's it's like night and day, the comparison, the difference between how it was 10 years ago when, you don't want to be delving into that stuff unless you know what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think that's what I've done over the years. I've repoisoned myself over and over again, because although I had the 34 mercury procedures, there was another 16 removals that none of them were safe, none of them. So thankfully I'm still here.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're lucky to be here.
I know, it's amazing. I think I had to stay to write the document, but it really is now that with the increase in EMF, it's like I really need to get on top of this as immediately, really, and safely.
Yeah. Thank you, Lindy.
Thank you.
Really interesting. Kirsten, you're next.
Hi. Yes. Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Nicki. When you're saying detox, and you've obviously mentioned clean slate, is that what you're covering by detox, basically taking the clean state stuff, or is it something else as well?
That's one of the things I do. The other thing is infrared sauna therapy, which I do most nights. Definitely worth researching that. And then, yeah, the magnesium and distilled water. Distilled water also has magnetic qualities, so that can take toxins out.
Oh, I see. Yes. I think I see now. There was that previous slide. So are you including all of that? So there was the one with grounding, breathing, distilled water, and then it did have an item heavy metal detox at the end.
Yeah,
but,
so that's it.
But in fact, you're just including all of them.
Yes, and what I found was once I started to get the toxins and the metals out, and I was taking something like 12 different supplements. I mean, there's a lot of us, you open the cupboard and it's just, it's full of products you try. And, I was taking herbs and supplements that were probably kicking me out of balance, because, you can't just mess with this stuff and give your body one thing and then, too much of zinc knocks out the copper or whatever. And herbs are so powerful. You really need to be working with a practitioner on those. I didn't do very well on herbs. And juicing, I went into juicing wholeheartedly and made myself quite sick with that as well. Thinking it's really simple, and it's not. You need to know what you're doing. You mustn't combine too many fruits. You mustn't combine too many fruits and vegetables. You just got to keep it simple. So now because I've detoxed so well, I only take magnesium. I take a powder which has got vitamin D and really high quality vitamin C, and the water, and yeah, that's it. I'm experimenting with some mushroom blends at the moment, but yeah, and it's so nice. I just feel liberated from those 12 different pots.
Yes,
you're taking every night, and with all the fillers and nasty bits and bobs inside them.
Nice. Yeah. Simpler.
Yes, much simpler.
Oh, lovely. And then is it Lisa from People's Health Alliance? Yeah. When you were saying about your son and the Xbox, again, I've got computer interested children, but of course they're gamers prefer wired because it's faster, so you might be able to tempt him with that. And certainly mine prefer that. Lovely.
Absolutely.
And then
no, that's a good point. And he is very aware of the wireless headphones, and we speak about that, but
yes,
it's all of it. It's all of the gadgets, isn't it?
Sure. But yeah, at least you might be able to take that tack with one thing at least.
Definitely.
And then,
thank you.
Oh, not at all. And then I noticed that Camilla's answered.
Yes.
As well.
She has. I was just looking at the chat.
So that's me. But thank you.
Let me just go a bit further up. Thank you, Kirsten. A little bit further up. Oh, Technology. It's not
I've
my
got it.
friend. Have you got it? Would you like to read it out, Kirsten?
Yeah,
I think she was talking about the baby waking up.
That's
wasn't
right,
she?
yes. So it's 8:10. Yes, my baby went from waking up 17 times a night to only 2 to 4 times, and went back to smiling and laughing, making eye contact and coping again in just 2 days.
Amazing. Amazing. Really is. Thank you, Kirsten.
That's okay.
Kath, over to you.
Hello, thank you. Just a couple of questions. When you mentioned switching off the circuit board, is that sort of where all the fuse boxes, at the fuse box?
Yeah.
So is there like the one main trip switch you just turn off every night?
Yeah, turn the red switch off.
Red switch.
And doesn't harm anything. And you know, it feels a bit weird because it gadonk, you know, not something we're used to doing. Turn it off, and then fumble around in the dark a little bit and then just see how you get on. But some people are really serious about this stuff. You can get an electrician to fit a demand switch. You can put a demand switch on the various circuits, so you could have a switch in your bedroom which just before you go to bed, you switch off, and that can control either the circuit board or that particular circuit. Do you know what I mean? So you turn the main one off and you can go upstairs, you've still got lights.
Okay.
There's so many things you can do.
And you don't want to switch the freezer off, do you, overnight? And
you can leave it off overnight. It really isn't.
As long as it doesn't open, it's fine. It doesn't start defrosting.
Yeah, it'd be fine for 8 hours.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic.
Another couple of questions. And I've heard that with magnesium, you need to have 3 different types of magnesium, just not one type.
Everybody's different. I mean, some people get on with citrate, some people get on with the taurine version, and it's just a trial and error. But the one I'm taking at the moment is a blend, and getting on really well with it. Just some people their bowels react to it, and citrate I've been taking on and off for quite a few years. I'm pretty safe on that one, and it's not the most expensive one, so it's worth trying that one first.
Okay, that's great. And finally, how do you distill your water?
I've got a distiller. I've got 2 distillers actually. I don't know if you've ever seen them. It's just like a big kettle.
Okay.
There's a couple of companies. One's called Make Pure Water, and the other one's called Via Fossa. They're brands that I quite like, just very trustworthy. They've been around for a long time. And it makes a gallon's worth of, a jug is 1 gallon. So that should be enough to keep a small family going for a day. Mine's literally going every day because I cook with it, I drink it, I use it for tea and coffee. If you drink tea with distilled water, you'll never go back to anything else. And so I don't want to leave out the fact that some people love their Berkeys, because I mean, I haven't got one, and I know they're good as well. But if you drink your hot drinks with pure water, it's a world of difference. There's no scum around the cup, and it just tastes so much nicer.
We've got a borehole, luckily. And it goes through all the filtration and the, ultraviolet, whatever stuff. Brilliant. And the difference, I mean, when people come and will say, try our water, it's like, whoa, that just tastes amazing. It's the same thing when the filter needs, because you've got to add salt, etc. But you can tell when the filter's ready to change, because you start to get that thing on your cup of tea, you'll get that scum.
Yes, dead giveaway.
Around the edge, so
Brilliant.
Yeah, the difference in the taste is just incredible.
It's just there's a company called Zero that does zero water, and you filter your water, but that's not distilled water now.
No.
Okay.
No. And the other thing, I make colloidal silver, so I need the distiller for that. So I've been doing that for the last 6 years, and then I just give that to family and friends. And I think everyone should have a bottle of colloidal silver in the cupboard, but you need a distiller to make it.
Okay, but do you take that every day?
Not every day, no, but if you feel like you're coming down with a bit of a sore throat, you want to spray the back of your throat. Did it with my other half a couple of days ago. I felt something coming on. Spray the back of your throat every couple of hours, and he had a bit of a rough day yesterday and he's fine now.
Okay, thank you. That's really,
fantastic.
really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I think this whole thing has been fantastic, Nicki.
Oh, thank you.
I think it's time to say good evening, but we will obviously be sharing the recording, and we'll put some information in the description of the recording as well. Some of the things that Nicki's talked about, where to get the clay, all of that kind of stuff. I mean, there's some great things here. And if anybody's got any questions going forward, I think Nicki's put her contact details in the chat.
So there's a couple of questions I haven't looked in the chat to answer, but just WhatsApp me, or just send me a message. I'm happy to help. Absolutely.
Get in touch with her, and I think you'll all agree it's been a fascinating evening. Definitely.
Do we have your contact details, Nicki, then?
I just put them in the chat. I put my mobile number.
Okay.
And if you want to try Clean Slate, I'll put the link. I coach people with Clean Slate. I don't charge. If somebody wants to try it, it's all about the dosage. So you want to make sure, because of what happened to me, I want to make sure people are safe and doing it correctly. As I say, the side effects are not severe, if at all. But, just the first few days, you might need a bit of hand holding. And so you know what you're doing. After that, it's easy.
We'll put Nicki's details in the description of the recording when it goes out, so you'll be able to see that it'll go onto Rumble and YouTube, and we'll share it in all the Telegram groups, but we'll put contact details in there so you can get a hold of Nicki. And I think I've got lots of questions that I will be coming back to you on, Nicki.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you very much, everybody. It's been great to see you all here, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.